When I was just starting elementary school, around the age of 5, my father was at the hospital quite often, but I was not so sure why. It was not until my three siblings and I huddled up together on my bed that we learned the devastating news. My mother sat us down with a distraught look on her face and told us, "Your father is sick." "What kind of sick?" my older brother responded. She explained, "The doctors diagnosed him with pancreatic cancer." Given that we were so young, there was a look of confusion on our faces, and we knew no better than to ask, "Is Daddy going to die?" My mother hesitated, and with a quiver of her lip, she nodded her head. Instantly, we all screamed and we were consumed by tears. However, given my mother's strength, she insisted that crying would not make our father feel any better. She implored us to make cards for him to attempt to brighten his mood. Over the course of the next year or so, my father's illness slowly began to eat away at him. At first, it seemed as though he was still able to do a lot of his normal activities, but slowly he became weaker and weaker. Soon enough, he was not able to support himself and needed a cane to aid him in walking. Not long after that, he was confined only to his bed. The memory of this slow, devastating process will forever be ingrained in my memory because it was unbearable. Although I was relatively young, these memories are still vividly placed in my mind. On March 21st, 2005, my Uncle Ray, not my uncle by blood, but rather he was my father's best friend, took my brothers and I out to play a round of golf. After we got back in the evening, we were sitting in the kitchen eating dinner. One by one, Uncle Ray called each of us into the other room. He explained that while we were gone, my father had passed away in his bed. Young and numb to the severity of the pain, I did not react at first. I walked back into the kitchen where my brothers and I sat in silence. My acknowledgement of this devastating truth was a long process. Understandably so, it was a lot to emotionally comprehend. Even at the funeral, the full breadth of the event still had not settled in with me. I was surrounded by tears and yelps, but I maintained a stone-cold persona. Slowly over time, I began to be able to process and reflect on the events, and as the years have passed, I have learned a lot from my experience. Overall, my father's death has caused me to emphasize the value I place on relationships with friends and family. I cherish every moment I have with my loved ones, and I never hesitate to tell them how much I care for them, because I know there will not always be another chance. Additionally, I learned strength and composure through tough times from my mother. For example, when she first broke the devastating news to my siblings and me, her first reaction was not to sulk. Rather, she proactively insisted that we make the best of the situation by creating cards for my father. She continued to show her strength and composure as she was forced to raise 4 young children on her own, which is clearly no simple task. Above all, I believe that I learned that I cannot paint myself as the victim. There is no particular reason for my father's death, but in life, there will always be things outside of my control. Oftentimes, people get dejected over failures they have no control over. But when we come to terms with the fact that we simply cannot control our own destiny, we recognize an inner peace. In the end, perseverance, grit, and the proper framing of the situation are vital in learning to grow from difficult experiences.